Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all well. Tonight, I want to actually discuss this monster who worked for the BBC, who actually pleaded guilty today to having category A images and the rest that we know. What angers me even more is that the BBC were aware for 5 months or more of his arrest and were continuing to pay him a salary that was somewhere around 440,000 a year for 5 months with public money until he actually resigned. How many times is this despicable organization going to cover up for perverts like this guy? And don't tell me that nobody had a clue, because I just don't believe it. But this is the way that these people abuse their power. Here's a video a while back from that satirical news reporter we all know, Jonathan Pye, and take a look at this. This was him.
The man's in hospital. And if what just happened to him had just happened to me, I'd be in a fucking morgue right now. Rupert Murdoch, he threw a grenade and let the rest of us do the rest of the work. They lit the fuse and let you and me put 2 and 2 together and make Jimmy Savile the sequel. And it's not just the gutter press. We're all in the fucking gutter this morning, all of us. And if he has done anything wrong or illegal or indeed inappropriate work, then of course he should be punished accordingly. But if he hasn't, I couldn't give a fuck what he chooses to do behind closed doors. His home and family troubles and his sexual preferences are none of my business. And I therefore look forward to saying the words, "Back to you, Hugh," as soon as fucking possible.
No, you won't. No, you won't. Basically, he did exactly what he was ranting about, which is what they all do. They are the ones who literally make an argument, but then they give themselves a little get out of jail free card, like he did. If he's guilty, then he should be punished, but blah, 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 blah. Don't tell me that nobody in that organization was aware of the behavior of this monster. Category A, I had to look it up to actually understand what it actually means. And it's actually turned my stomach. I actually don't really want to discuss this for too long, because I just won't be able to sleep. So let's have a look what we got here. 41 indecent images of children which had been sent to him by another man on WhatsApp. They included 7 category A images, the most serious class 2 of which showed a child aged between 7 and 9. What's the meaning of category A photos? It is literally in the act with a child, and I don't know which ones he was in or not in. I really actually couldn't read the whole lot. It was just too much. And now we're hearing he may get a custodial sentence. Now, what would be appropriate for somebody who actually does what this guy has done? It just beggars belief. Destroyed the lives of children. But in a news feature that I was watching just a few minutes ago, apparently there are 800 arrests per month for this sort of behavior in this country, and rising. And this is alarming, and it's sickening. Now, in the news article I watched, I forgot which one. I've watched so many in preparation for this video, and I can't remember everything that I wanted to say, but there you go. Now, if you come across anything inappropriate, if you come across any material and you think that the person in that video is under 18, then the advice is to report that site immediately to the Internet Watch Foundation. I will post it in the comments now in the chat, and I will also post it on my Facebook page and as a post on YouTube after this live stream. Make a note of it, um, save it, and as I said, if you see anything, you contact them. They go to the site. As soon as they see anything inappropriate, they then go and issue what's called a takedown notice, and that site instantly becomes inaccessible. They're very, very powerful, and takedown notices are, you know, they really, really are they're almost like the high court bailiffs of the internet. Um, if you've ran a website and, for example, you've picked up a website virus and it's sending out emails left, right, and centre or something, if your site's been hacked, and it does get to the attention of Internet Watch or these people, then you may have received a takedown notice. I did have one once where my site was hacked and things were being sent out left, right, and centre. And believe me, you know, they can get that website taken down. So we all need to be vigilant and report these sites. And the consensus is, or the facts are, that apparently from the open web you are 4 clicks away from this material. So to those of you who are really tech savvy, I'd like to know, is it not possible to have all of this content, all inappropriate content, literally blocked by default? I'm not just talking of child pornography. I'm talking about the whole lot. So people actually have to, with age verification, access some whatever it is that they want to watch. So we have age verification at each age, for any access. But more importantly, I don't understand how these very latest, especially many of them are AI powered, how these web crawlers cannot pick up on this stuff. Um, if you post anything on, on Facebook or any of these platforms, if it gets, how many times have you posted something innocent, but if there's an excess of flesh showing and it misreads it, suddenly it gets taken down and you may have to appeal it, and then they may or may not look at it manually. I don't know what exactly they do, and then it can get restored, or if they're still not happy with it, then it just gets taken down and that's it. Why is that not possible on the open web? I don't understand. In this day and age, with the technology that we have, why the entire web is not being trawled so that all of the main platforms, all of the main search engines have restrictions on this type of material, and at the same time, any site that is picked up as suspicious can be referred immediately to Internet Watch so that it can then be checked out manually. I really don't understand. And obviously, we can't do anything about people who operate like this Huw Edwards, because they normally operate through private WhatsApp groups. And apparently, with this guy, he was unmasked after a paedophile was arrested by Welsh police, and they uncovered the messages to him in their WhatsApp conversations, and that's how he actually got caught by default. Otherwise, who knows how long this would have gone on for. Watch out for men wearing expensive suits. Well, I don't know about that. I don't think there's any definition of what they look like or anything about them. But the numbers are terrifying, and the numbers that have come from the BBC and the two main political parties actually beggar belief. There's a list, I will actually cover this in another live stream, of all MPs and councillors from the two main parties who have been suspended for indecent and sexual offences. and it is absolutely shocking. And yet, these people dare to even point the finger at anybody else. It literally beggars belief. How long is long enough? And if this guy were to go to prison, especially where we are now, and I think I saw up to 10 years. If he got the full 10 years, which I bet he won't, under this new directive from Labour, they're let out at 40%. That means he would be out in 4 years. That's if he got 10 years. If he got 5, he'd be out in 2 years. Is that right for what he's done to innocent children? I think not. I don't think it's enough. And now that this bunch have literally reduced time that will be served across the board, they have, if you like, reduced the deterrent by a significant amount. And we also need to keep in mind that these people are not just evil, they are clinically ill. They must be, to do what they do and to behave the way that they do. But at the same time, it seems once again that society is more concerned about protecting them than protecting children. Because when these monsters do get released, yes, they're on the sex offenders register and they're monitored and so on and so forth. But it took a lot of fighting to push through Sarah's law so that parents could actually establish if their children were likely to come into contact with these people. So, what are your thoughts where these people are concerned when they have gone to prison and served their 6 months, their year, their 2 years? It's not normally that long, and they come back out. Do you think it's right that they should be able to anonymously slip back into an unsuspecting community, or worse, to be given new identities because their identity is a risk to them and then placed elsewhere within an unsuspecting community? And as we know, many times these people do offend again, and in many instances it is covered up because the police don't want to appear negligent, the courts don't want to appear negligent, nor do the probation service, nor does the Home Secretary, whoever may be holding the position of Home Secretary at that time. Because ultimately, the Home Secretary is, at the end of the day, ultimately responsible. And the minute they step into that position, then in effect, they assume responsibility of everything that happens from the minute they become Home Secretary. So, more often than not, ministers, from the minute they become a minister for whatever department that may be, they're on a mission of self-preservation. And that's mainly what they're concerned about. They're on borrowed time. I don't know what the average life expectancy, as in office, for a minister is nowadays. It used to be about 11 months, I think, or something along those lines. It's not that long. So ministers are concerned about lasting out till the end of the week or the end of the month or however long it may be, because they're not there for very, very long. So it is almost a situation where ministers, in particular, in this case, the Home Secretary, is all about kicking the can down the road and covering everything up to just be able to hang it out for as long as possible and pass the buck onto the next unsuspecting Home Secretary when there is a reshuffle or an election. And then when a new secretary assumes the baton, then the process starts again. But this does nothing to protect an innocent public. I'm afraid there's much evidence for this. This is not the first time, but this is the corporation that takes the moral high ground and purports to be a bastion of decency and standing for righteousness, but in reality, they are little more than treacherous virtue signaling hypocrites, and they are all as guilty as each other. And for their behavior, they receive salaries that are literally obscene. A working MP receives 90,000 a year. They get expenses, but then that is actually expenses, whether it's for a secretary or this or that or the other. And we have people like Huw Edwards, who was on 440,000 a year. Gary Lineker on, is it 1.2 million? And all of the rest of these people on hundreds of thousands of pounds, so that they can speak to us with their condescending BBC mannerisms, accusing anybody who contradicts the narrative of using their customary inflammatory language. And I'm sure that will ring a few bells with some of you. And ultimately, in the end, they are guilty of covering up for monsters of the worst type, those who prey on innocent children. And there's no excuses for that. And today, if you saw the photo of Hugh in court, stone-faced, in fact, his posture was almost arrogant and defiant. No hint of remorse whatsoever, not even any hint of fear for the retribution that he may very well face for his horrid actions. And that says a lot about him. And if he were to get a lenient sentence, then that really would be the ultimate insult to those poor children and society as a whole. But more importantly, it would be an indictment on the relationship between the government and the BBC, and that insidious corporation's attitude to of contempt, which is one of contempt to the greater public, because they simply do not care, and they think that they are above the law and they can get away with anything. There has been several instances, well, it's not several, it's hundreds, because how far do you go back? A week, a month, a year, a decade? The pattern of behavior has continued throughout, where they know they have their own legal department. They know what they can say or how they can say it. And sometimes they can place the dagger into somebody without even leaving their fingerprints on the dagger. But the damage is done. And if somebody is bold enough and determined enough and capable of fighting the good fight and forcing their hand to the point where they are obliged to apologize, don't think for 1 minute that the apology will be in any way, shape, or form equal to the exposure of that dagger with no fingerprints, because people will not remember the retraction. They will not remember the apology. They will remember the headlines. They will remember the implications in the article, even if it's said in such a clever way that they are not committing themselves legally or professionally. The damage could be done. How many people has this organization ruined? How many individuals have they smeared simply because that individual does not fit in with their contemptful left-wing woke agenda, because all they care about is their own little bubble, and they live in their own little bubble. And this is why just about the first thing Keir Starmer did when he got into office was appease the BBC and keep them happy. And if you watch the BBC reporters, when they speak to Keir Starmer or any of his ministers, there is no comparison in their tone when they speak to this bunch than there is in their tone when they spoke to the Conservative leadership and ministers, and absolutely none whatsoever if they're talking to anybody else, such as Nigel Farage or one of the Reform candidates, where they speak to them with an attitude of utter contempt because they think that they are judge, jury, and executioner, when in actual fact they are neither of those. They are indeed as guilty as the criminals themselves in so many different ways. They're not sick. It's about being in control. Maybe. I really don't know what brings these people to behave this way. But ultimately, I'm absolutely disgusted. One consolation, if it is a consolation, is that we have been spared the spectacle of a protracted trial and the speculation, and more importantly, all of these disturbed left-wing fanatics who would be jumping on anyone who even questions whether this man is guilty or not, because it would be the Jonathan Pye situation where it would be attack, and leave a little exit clause. Attack. That's all they do. So it's a good job that he has pleaded guilty. So at least we now have it confirmed that he is indeed guilty. And we knew that anyway, because were he not guilty, then he would have been speaking out with a passion from day one. But as you are all aware, from the minute he was arrested, he just withdrew and just kept quiet because he was guilty. Now, when the shoe's on the other foot, where the lefties are concerned, if anybody actually does defend themselves or they don't like something, they just gang up like hyenas and just resort to baseless insults and name calling and attack. But as I've always said, and I'll say it again, I consider those who are lefties to have serious mental issues. They have to be that way. They are the highly disturbed people within our society, and that becomes absolutely clear when we see who they defend, who they attack, why they attack them, and more importantly, how they attack them, because invariably they do not have an argument, so they've lost the argument and just resort to just smearing and name calling. And that, my friends, defines the very fundamental mindset of these people. And on that note, I hope that he does get the maximum sentence, and well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens once he does get sentenced, and we'll go from there. That's all for now. I think I should leave this for now and bid you good night, and I will see you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.